Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Anne Marie Maloney, and I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening to the Ulster County Women's Network monthly program. And I will be your host for the evening. I would like to introduce our advisory committee. We have Gloria Waslin, Sheila Gould, Lisa Grindell, who is not here this evening, and Leslie Snow, our beautiful past president, who is also our tech advisor and our Zoom coordinator for this evening. And I would also like to introduce who we have this evening as our members and our guests. We have Leslie Snow, and her guest is Barbara Hirth. We have Judith Kerman, and her guest, Leslie Gerber.
Not quite here yet.
Sorry?
Judy's not back yet, is she? Where is Leslie? There is Leslie. Hi.
I don't know. Is Judy back yet or no? Do we have everybody in the room?
She's coming on right now.
Then we have Karen Holden and her guest, I'm going to say, pardon my pronunciation, Geiki Schneider. Then we have Myrna Sameth, Danielle Werner, Sarah Beams, Gloria Waslin, Joan Apter, Pam Krimsky, Sheila Gould, Susan Metzger, and her friends Alice Stroop, Beth Troxwell, and Holly Euritia. And that's it. And then we have Gloria and her beautiful friend Goldee Greene. So I would like to turn this over to Gloria to say a few words, and just to let everyone know a little bit of housekeeping. The voices will be muted. The videos will be left on. And unless you choose to turn your video off, some people don't want to be recorded, so that's fine. It's totally up to you. We will have a question and answer at the end of the program. And we do have a small amount of folks this evening, but if you would prefer, please put your questions in the chat. And if not, you can just raise your hand and I will call on you. So thank you. And now on to Gloria.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see everybody, truly and truly, truly. It's also a wonderful honor to be the president in Leslie Snow's good mentorship, because she's teaching me a lot in a very short amount of time. So thank you, Leslie, for tolerating teaching me. I am very good friends with a wonderful group of people that kind of formed a constellation around Pete Seeger. So Goldee Greene has been singing with Pete, and I always refer to him in the present, so I don't say that she did. She still does, because he's very present. And I've seen her perform many times at the Howland Center in Beacon, and her own creative work is so amazing. There was a program that she did. She wrote a story that she spoke about and then did some songs around, lots of different subjects. And I just think that her new work, which is the Viva the Divas, about the 3 pioneering Black women who were in slavery times and then did amazing accomplishments, singing at the White House for consecutive presidents, singing for at Buckingham Palace for the King and Queen, and singing at Metropolitan Opera before it was called Metropolitan Opera. It was Metropolitan Hall for 4,000 people in New York City. So they broke the color line against a lot of odds. So I just think it's a wonderful thing that people can break through misguided social norms through the power of music. And Pete used to talk about the power of song and how the vibration of music and the intention of music goes past the brain and right into the heart. So I just think Goldie is amazing. I remember something she did on Frederick Douglass that just, stays with me forever. And her own story is very compelling and beautiful. She's just a great soul. I love her. We love giggling together. And I could think of nobody finer to present to our group than my friend Goldie. Thank you. And the Parrots for Peace love her, and she loves them too. Take it away, Goldie. You're muted, honey.
It just feels so thrilled to be here with these beautiful, beautiful women, beautiful people, and to just celebrate Black History Month. I did earlier in the month do a program at the through Zoom, sponsored by the Desmond Fish Library in Garrison, where I live as well. So I'm so happy to be able to do it again because I love Black History Month. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just talk a little bit about, and I'm going to watch the clock. I'm not going to go on for 5 hours, all right? Just talking a little bit about my musical theater piece, Viva the Divas. And it's a particular Diva the Divas because I have several different Diva the Divas. This one is Viva the Divas, Lizzie, Salika, and Ciceretta. There's another one that I do, Viva the Divas, where I deal with women of the stage and screen Broadway, and that's a different show. This really zeroes in on three very amazing women who, two of them were born into slavery and were able to become free mainly because of, very people who were open-minded during that time that assisted them. And it wasn't ideal for them, but they were able to get musical training and because they were talented and gifted. Okay, but before I do that, I'd like to just do a little bit of the terminology surrounding opera and also the personalities that you see in opera and that you might have heard of. And some of you might know all this, but it's not widely known because I remember when I was growing up, opera, it was like a comic routine, the fat lady on the stage, caterwauling and someone throwing a banana in her mouth. I mean, that's all I knew about opera. Okay. And I was actually trained as a pianist from a young, from an early age. I had private lessons. My parents were very musically supportive of me, and we had a beautiful piano. And so I was very aware of classical music, but I wasn't really aware of classical vocal music. Anyway, so this is this kind of terminology. You're going to hear something to the effect of bel canto. And bel canto is when you learn to sing, and it takes years of training, and you learn to breathe, you learn to project, you learn to open your mouth really like, okay, which is why the banana goes in, I guess. And in the end result of this is you learn to sing without a mic. So when you hear an opera singer, perform either live or sometimes on television, you might see a couple of little mics there, but that's not a mic to amplify them. That's a mic to record them. When you go to the Metropolitan Opera House or any other opera house, an opera singer sings without a mic over an orchestra. And that includes music by Wagner, Richard Wagner, which is very loud and very brassy, lots of trumpets and trombones and all kinds of, very loud French horns, or horns as they're called in class. They don't call them French horns. That's the horn. And they sing over an orchestra. And even if you have a teeny tiny little voice, like our beautiful Kathleen Battle, she has a teeny tiny little voice, but she projects over an orchestra. So that's something to look out for because it's amazing. Okay. Of course, if an opera singer gets a gig singing in a nightclub, yeah, there will be a mic because you're singing with electronic piano and all that. Okay. But as far as in a concert hall, churches, anything with acoustics, there is no need for a mic. So anyway, an opera singer also has to study diction, and that is not much fun, but they drill you in. You have to learn Italian diction. Doesn't mean you have to speak these languages, but you have to know how to pronounce them. Italian, German, French, English. There's also Russian, Czech, in Spanish, because the Spanish language, absolutely. And then we have the different types of singers. And I found this that a lot of people do not know the difference between one singer and another. So let's start with the sopranos. With the soprano, the high soprano, that's the coloratura. That's the one that sings way up there like a little bird chirping away. And then a light lyric soprano, and one of those is Kathleen Battle. She's a black opera singer, and she's amazing. Very high, light voice. Then we have the lyric soprano, where most sopranos lie. Then we have the dramatic soprano. That's a lower soprano, but still a bit like Jessie Norman, who just died 2 years ago, almost going on 3 years ago. And then we go down into the tenor. And we have tenor, we have baritone bass, we have bass. That's the guy who always plays the devil. He's never a nice guy. Sorry, you're always going to play the bad guy if you're a bass, mostly. So now we come to the personalities and this will be a little bit more, more topical. We have amazing singers like Leontine Price, who's 92 years old. She's not singing anymore, but she was instrumental in being one of the first Black divas to really cross over and make it. And then we have Kathleen Battle, who's still singing. We have New York's own Martina Arroyo, who's a beautiful soprano who now teaches. Jessie Norman, beautiful dramatic soprano who just passed away. I'm just talking about the Black one, sorry. I love Maria Callas and, Joan Sutherland. I love them all, but we're just narrowing it down here. And then we have Grace Bumbry, who's a beautiful mezzo-soprano, Denise Graves, and someone who I got the chance to hear her sing right before in the winter of 19, Angel Blue, because we went to the Met to see Porgy and Bess. Awesome. And we have a beautiful young African singer from South Africa. She's a Zulu, and I've been to South Africa. I know these are really amazing people. She's a beautiful singer, and she's only about 30 years old now. Her name is Pretty Yende, like pretty. I'm pretty Yende, okay? And another beautiful singer, mezzo-soprano, Janae Bridges. Okay, so anyway, and then we have brothers. We have the brothers too. We have brothers. We have Samson Williams, who was the husband of one of the divas that we'll be talking about in the play in just a minute. We have this beautiful tenor named Robert McFerrin. I'm sure you've heard of Bobby McFerrin, that amazing that guy who sings at all different octaves and accompanies himself. Well, that's his father, Robert McFerrin, who was an amazing tenor. Famous tenor, and you can look all these people up. And then we have Paul Robeson. Even though he never really sang opera, he had an operatic voice, and we all know what he sounded like. Okay, right? He was a bass baritone, deep down there. And William Warfield, beautiful baritone, who was married to Leontine Price. It's hard to give up a marriage when both of you were international opera singers, so the marriage didn't last very long. And then George Shirley, Simon Estes, and two young brothers who are out there is Russell Thomas and Lawrence Brownlee. And there's so many others that we'll never hear of because they're not stars, but they're out there and they love the music. So anyway, let's get down to this piece. We're talking about three opera divas. You'll see their pictures. You hear. Okay, this is really important for you to know this. This is not a museum interpretation of history. This interpretation of history is my own, reading up on things, my own knowledge of what I heard of people, these people, and what you would call it is yeah, I have it written down here again.
Creative interpretation.
It's historical fiction. Right. So most of it's true. Everything is true. But when we get to the point where our first diva in 1854, she's in London Harbor and she's been ripped off by her manager. And she meets up with Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was, an open-hearted, an open-minded, she was like the Eleanor Roosevelt of her day. Okay, she met up with her, and not Eleanor Roosevelt, um, Harry Beecher Stowe housed her and set her up in her own business singing. So, and this is in London because Harry Beecher Stowe was in London. So it's like at the same time. So I don't think they met in London Harbor. I'm not sure. Maybe they did, but I made it like that. Okay. Because they did meet up after a while. Anyway, the first two divas, um, Elizabeth Greenfield Taylor, Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield, and Marie Salika Williams were born in Natchez, Mississippi. Has anybody ever been there? Well, I'd love to go there. The reason it's right on the banks of the Mississippi River, about an hour west of Jackson, which is the capital of Mississippi, and about an hour north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So it's way down there in the South, way down there. And they were both born there, but 40 years apart, 30, 40 years apart. This is, should I show the picture? Okay. Here we go. First one is Lizzie, or Elizabeth. She called herself Lizzie. Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. I left the Taylor out because when we hear Elizabeth Taylor, we're like, oh, Elizabeth Taylor. Okay. But it's Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield. And she was born in about the same time that Harriet Tubman was born, about 1819, 1820, about that same time. And her owner was a young woman named Miss Greenfield. And Greenfield took her, she became an abolitionist and ran away to Philadelphia with Lizzie. And Lizzie stayed with her, and, they were together. I don't know if as a couple, but they were together. She hired Lizzie, then she was, and Lizzie was actually able to get music lessons and singing lessons. And that's how she started out. And she ended up upstate. She might have been at Seneca Falls in 1848, I'm not sure, but she did end up in London in 1854, where she escaped from slavery, because by that time London had abolished slavery, England had abolished slavery. But she ended up coming back to the United States, to where she sang and started her own theater company, her own opera company. And when she died in 1876, make sure I get it right, she had her own home. She had her own, she did very well, all things considered, with her life and mentoring young people. Could we hear a little bit of a clip from her, that when she's just hear, my interpretation of her singing?
So this is you singing, Goldie.
Yes. Oh, this is well before recording.
Yeah. So I just want to make that clear. Yeah.
Yes, this is my interpretation of her singing for the Queen of England. Thank you.
Which one?
Do the Io son lumine ancella. Yeah.
This one. Hi.
Yes, that's it.
Io sono lumina della gente creador e m'offre la favela e lo diffonda.
Yes, and that is I should have told you what that was about. It's about a diva, a great diva coming off the stage, and everyone's telling her how great she was and how wonderful she was. And she says, "Oh, no, no, no. I am not that great. I am only a vessel for art." So that's what it's about. I'm only a vessel for art. So yeah, so anyway, Lizzie, hello? Hello? Anybody there?
We can hear you.
Okay, so Lizzie, Carrie, she's the one that I started with because she was the first of these divas that I heard of. And to tell you the truth, I can't even remember how I found out about her. I must have just been surfing the net like we all do, and, looking at, black opera singers. She came up and just something about her. The thing I noticed that I don't really care for is the fact she doesn't have a hat. Her hair looks beautiful and her dress is very nice. She doesn't have a hat and she doesn't have gloves. So to me, a lady always wore gloves, okay, back in those days. So I wasn't really sure what, that kind of like shows you where she was at, in the final analysis, social wise. Okay, so anyway, then now we have our second diva who was born in, that's Marie Williams. A part that she played was Salika in one of the operas she played in. So she took Salika as her nickname, and that's what we call her too. And she was born in 1849, still in slavery. And she was also born in Natchez, Mississippi. And she died in New York. And she died in 1937. And she was a very extremely classy woman, as you can see. And she has gloves on. See that? Can you see her? That's Salika. And Salika was also a soprano. And somehow when I was writing this, she ended up being the sassy one. The one who kind of like was a little outspoken. She was the first Black person to perform at the White House. What year was that? I'm not really sure. I don't have it in front of me because it's in my script. But she was married to an opera singer, Samson Williams. And both of them performed in front of President Harrison. And she also ended up going to Europe and becoming, they would just throw jewels at her and, money, and made her quite well off. But she, always, for some reason, when you're writing drama, the voices come to you and everything kind of like starts writing itself. You start hearing the people, how they talk, and you don't know whether you're making it up or what, or it's from the cosmos. But there's a piece that I would like you to hear from her. That's from Camille Saint-Saëns' Samson et Delilah, Samson and Delilah as we know it. And it's in French. And in this particular piece, we're talking about someone's coming in the house.
It's nothing is working. There's a line that says
Everyone, please mute.
All right.
Sheila, we need you. Thank you.
Everyone, please mute. Thank you.
Am I muted?
No, you don't mute. And I'm not muted. And so what would you like me to play from Samson and Delilah?
Voici l'heure de vengeance qui doit satisfaire nos deux.
passant dans son sein. Vicky, maman adresse, sans soit jamais. Il voudrait envaincre son homme, pouvoir me chasser, me bannir, me rater l'éteindre à la flamme, à l'éponde mes souvenirs. Il est à moi, c'est mon esclave. Mes frères prégnent son corps. Moi, seul entre deux, je te regrette. Et les retire à mes genoux. Amour, viens aider ma faiblesse. Verser les poissons dans son sein. Vicky, maman adresse. Sans soit échappé de mal. Contre l'amour, sa force est venue. Et lui, le port parmi les ports. Lui qui, mon peuple, rompt en chine, s'il combattra sous mes efforts. I don't need to hear it again. I hear it. Thank you. Oh, thank you, hon. You know, that's all right, hon. Yeah, I should have told you what that was about before. You would have enjoyed it a lot more. She's going to take him and bring him to his knees and make him her slave. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah. So now our third diva, and this is a beautiful picture of her. I mean, this is absolutely this is Matilda Ciceretta Jones, who was born in 1868, so she missed slavery by 3 years, right? And she died in 1933. Unfortunately, she became very wealthy because she would go to Europe and they would just give her jewels and all kinds of money and just, oh my goodness. But and medals that she used to wear on her, you know. But what happened was her mother got sick. Her husband died. Her mother got sick, and she sold her jewels, you know, to support her mother, and she ended up pretty much dying in poverty, you know. But this, look how gorgeous. Oh, what a beautiful. Oh, look at this. Look at her. And everything that she was wearing, that like tiara on her head, that wasn't like from Woolworths, okay? That's something that all kinds of people gave her, you know, from royalty. And she tried out for the Met. And, you know, this is in the play. And the general manager said, hey, you know, you really do have a beautiful voice. And you belong on the stage. However, we're not sure the public's ready for you yet. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you a few of the pictures from the play from the production we did in Poughkeepsie. Here's our African drummer. Some of you might know him, right? From Beacon. And here's me playing Lizzie, the first woman in my Civil War bonnet. And then this is a curtain call with myself and the storyteller, Bernadette Humphrey Nicole. I don't know if you heard her, she's a beautiful actress from Hudson Valley. And last but not least, our maestro, the one that learns all this music, plays it all and is so amazingly supportive. Tom McCoy, Maestro Tom McCoy, who plays everything from Stravinsky to Miles Davis. Does it all, which gets me back to the third person. I just wanted to mention Matilda Cicieretta Jones, who I just told you, who was feted all around the world. There's a number that I wrote called Fracking Blues, and Cicieretta Jones, she was a trained opera diva, believe me, but she had her own show. And in her show, she was singing some blues because she realized there was a time that none of us remember, but we all enjoyed very much, when somebody came up from those field hollers, people working on the plantation over those hundreds of years of slavery, and then being so many people being, not everybody, but lots of people being sharecroppers, real poverty. And one day, just struggling to survive. And one day, some woman rose up and said, "Oh, the field holler came out. Some guy was sitting there with a guitar, and they started doing that boom da doom da doom da doom ba doom da doom da doom. Yeah. All right, so that's the blues came from there. I don't know exactly where it came exactly. I'm not going to tell you, but it was someone. I'm pretty sure it was a woman. It just rose up. So I'm pretty sure that when Madame Cicieretta Jones put together her own traveling show, because they wouldn't hire her at the Met, and she would do, classical concert, but she needed to make a living. She started her own show. I would really like to think of what it would be like, and I'm inspired by my dear friend Carla Ray Johnson, beautiful sculptor who takes women and puts them in another place. So this is tribute to you, Carla Ray. What would happen if Cicieretta Jones was singing about fracking? Okay, and we get to hear now a little bit of even though she was an opera singer. Okay, where is she? But could you play that on Fracking Blues? I wrote that, and this was one of the things that I was performing back a few years ago until Governor Cuomo put a moratorium on fracking. Okay, so we don't have it here. Okay, so this is Fracking Blues, and this is a song I wrote, but I imagined what it would be like if Cicieretta Jones was singing it.
I woke up this morning to a shock that made me shout. Yeah, I woke up this morning to a shock that made me shout. Turned on my water faucet and fire came out the spout. Went over to my neighbors to see if there was something they could do. Yeah, went over to my neighbors to see if there was something they could do. They said they couldn't help me, they had fire in their water too. Called up my politician to find out what was going down. Yeah, called up my politician to find out what was going down. My congresswoman laughed and said, "Honey, fracking has come to your town." "What the hell is fracking?" I asked. I didn't like that she was laughing at me. "Oh, what the hell is fracking?" I didn't like that she was laughing at me. She laughed again before hanging up on me. Then I did some research on hydraulic fracking, which is gas corporations drilling carcinogenic liquids into the earth, breaking up subsoil deep below to exploit shale, turning it into what they call natural gas. This process threatens drinking water, and I think it's a crime against humanity and every bird and bee, plant, mineral, and ultimately, the very air we breathe. Fracking's such a noisy, smelly, unsightly, and pollutant practice. Even Jersey's banned it. We got fracking here in 34 states, 7 to 8 years, and your soil has gone to waste. 'Cause drilling filthy chemicals into Mother Earth, they ought to be ashamed. They ought to be ashamed. They ought to be ashamed. They ought to be ashamed, but they don't care who they hurt. No friggin' fracking, I say. Go out and spread the news, or else everybody's gonna have the fracking blues. Take it, Mike.
You can fade it out if you like to be perfected just a bit. Mike Lowe on Cora, and this was down at Alhambra on Bronxville. Volunteering his studio at the time for anybody who wanted to record a song about fracking. So let's hear it to Al. That's guitar, right? Yeah. I went to a lot of protests.
Seven to 8 years, and your father's on drilling filthy chemicals into Mother Earth. They ought to be ashamed. 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 Now they hurt. No freaking fracking, I say. Go on and spread the news, or else everybody's gonna have the friggin' fracking blues. No freaking fracking, I say. Go out and spread the news, or else everybody's gonna have the friggin' fracking blues.
All right, so you can turn it off now. That's really great. Thank you. Oh my God. Yeah, so we have what I'm trying to say is we have a variety of music. We have opera. We also have blues. We have gospel, spiritual, and Hudson Valley's favorite part of the show, sing along. So I'm hopefully being able to relaunch the show now. In parting, I would like to say it's pretty much one of my main life's missions for people to know about these divas, because this is a universal theme. It's something we can all relate to, and this is something that's very inspired to us and future generations, musician and music lover alike. So thank you again, all of you amazing, beautiful women. You're all gorgeous. Thank you. And I look forward to becoming a member, which I will tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Goldie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of questions. The first one is it a possibility for you to put your link into the your website link into the chat? So this way, our members and guests that are watching will be able to follow you. And if you also have a Facebook page or any other social media, your voice, I have to just tell you, it's just blew me away.
Well, thank you.
I think everybody else feels the same way. And we do have our first question is, where and did you get your vocal training from?
Well, I was trained as a pianist from a very early age. And then when I was going to go to a conservatory, and then I rebelled when I was 15 years old, 16, and stopped practicing, which is death because you have to practice. And I got into musical theater And then from there, some people would ask me to be in their bands, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It was much more glamorous than, classical piano, even though I love classical music, And then, so then I did a lot of theater all over the world and a lot of music. And plus I play piano, so I always had a gig doing that, if nothing else. And then I started 12, I'm glad you asked me that, because about 12 years ago I started my operatic training with a beautiful teacher on the Upper West Side. She passed away a couple of years ago, and she was the one who gave me my operatic sound, which is different from a usual singer's sound. It's just a different ball game entirely from anything else, rock, gospel. It's just a different way of singing and a different placement and a different discipline. And she helped me to find that because I liked the way it sounded. And I wanted to, be able to sing something else besides what I already knew to sing. So, and now
beautiful. Let me just go into the chat, and I have a couple of more questions.
Okay.
See what we have. Okay. I see that. Oh, Goldie, who did you study with? So that's we have a question.
Nancy Adams, and now I'm in a beautiful musical program at the Juilliard School for adults called the Juilliard School Extension. So they closed down the school, but before that we do Zoom now, but we go down to the school. It's really great being at Juilliard and being around all those amazing young people. I mean, where else are you going to get into an elevator and 6 guys with trombones get in along with you? It's just amazing.
That's sure. Is there any what would be your bucket list of to do as far as opera or as far as musical theater? Do you have something?
I mean, as far as a song or my favorite?
Like a role that you could play, or...
Well, I could play just about anything in the dramatic, soprano, and even mezzo-soprano repertoire. And that would include the Samson de Lila. It would include Cleopatra. I love Baroque. I know a lot of people don't like it. I love it. By Handel, and that's in the show. I could play, Cleopatra. I could play the Countess. I also love Mozart. I could play the Countess Almaviva in The Marriage of Figaro, or Figaro as we call it. And what would be another one of my roles? A couple of other roles too. Can't think of any offhand. Musical theater, just about anything. Because once you can sing classical, like opera singing, you can sing it all, honey. And
are you putting together a show? Are you putting together a show that perhaps I think you've just gained a few fans here this evening?
Oh, thank you.
No, I honestly, myself included. Would you consider putting a show together? Because there are several grants within New York State. I think that you would fall underneath, given your background with opera and music, and I think it would be absolutely wonderful if that could come to fruition, and then you could put a show on. I think it would be absolutely amazing. I mean, honestly,
I would love to. I'd love to do this show, to keep the word out about the divas. I also have I have some other shows too. I have a show about Juneteenth. And one act, and I have a full-length musical that actually did run off Broadway called Fracking, and for that we'd need a lot of young people, but adults too. It's would be an intergenerational casting thing, and that takes place in 1969 at a high school. Actually, it's kind of slightly autobiographical. It deals with bullying, but it also it's a comedy, and it also deals with the 4 blues women: Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Billie Holiday, and Dinah Washington. So that's a whole other thing. You can Google that. It's Sprang Thing is the name of it. So I'd like to, any way I could help to get the word out about people, and inspiring people of all ages to go for it and have a little fun, and so that was a good question. Thanks.
I
Yes.
mentioned your
Yes,
show, and that Peekskill Mocha is going to be recording you finally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To my friend Tamika Dunkley, and she is the daughter of a guy named Juma Sultan, and he's an African drummer.
Oh.
He actually played in Woodstock with, you know, but anyway. So I'll introduce you to Juma. You'll love him. But Tamika and her husband Martinique have a restaurant called Seasoned Evolution Center, I think. Okay. It's in Lake Katrine, and it kind of I'm kind of her advisor, and we're going to be doing theater. She wants to have you do something there with your divas.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's something that we could do with UPAC, I'm sure. So we'll get it going.
We got to keep this. We got to keep it out there, because especially nowadays, you know. Yeah.
There's got to be something at Bird Cliff. I mean, we can figure this out. So we'll talk.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Are there any other questions? Let's see. I sent my website, which is not really up to date right now. I'm on Facebook as Goldee Greene, so you can see me there. I also have a group of my girlfriends, and we have a group called the Extremes, and we do it all. Let's put it that way. We do it all. Let's see. How can I get this here? I'm trying to send this to people.
Okay, I see Leslie has just put in the chat how to contact you, which is fabulous. I think you are a treasure. You know you are. I mean, you have taken this Tuesday night and sent it into something that's so super fabulous. And honestly, there are several different venues out there that would just absolutely adore to have you. And if there's anything that I can, you know, do, certainly, you know, with Gloria and the rest of the Ulster County Women's Network, we will 100% be behind you in whatever you do. So,
thank you. You have no idea what that means to me. I'm just trying to make sure I send this to Pam. Pam isn't in the meeting right now.
We can also put it out in our newsletter. Can we do that again, Leslie? The next newsletter, we can also put the information out. Right? That would be brilliant.
Where's Leslie? Oh, there she is in the red.
Up there. It's Valentine's red.
Yeah. Well, yes, that is so good. We have to get on this. And Gloria, thank you so much for, Gloria has a golden heart, and the rest of you ladies do as well. And it's just.
Well, thank you so much for
before you kind of wind up, why don't you talk a little bit about the singing that you did with Pete Seeger on that album? Because aside from the classical, you do a lot of wonderful community activist.
Yes, that is very much this show, this Diva show is actually the three divas, the Lizzie, Salika, and Sissy, is actually dedicated to Robbie McCauley, who is my mentor, and you've got to look her up. I mean, she just died this past year. It was very, it was very moving, and the Times did a beautiful obituary on her, full page, just amazing. On this amazing woman who helped me. She was my mentor, and she's the one who got me into the black theater scene of the, off-Broadway scene in the 80s. So activism is very important. It's we have fun, but we have to inspire people to know what's going on, and to, as our dear late beautiful Connie Hogarth said, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And she didn't mean that in a way that you're supposed to be going out there burning things down. She meant that you're supposed to be, let's do something about this, So, Yeah, so yeah, activism is very important. I've written a lot of, all my shows usually have that to it, little grit to it.
Well, thank you again, Goldie, for such a wonderful evening. And
Thank you.
I'm
Good
so happy
night.
that you're going to become a member. And
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank our AC committee for all the hard work, and Gloria for being a dynamic duo this evening. And thank you all for putting up with me. It's my first time moderating this, so I hope I did okay.
Yeah, this is a fast
Great.
place.
Thank you. And I just want to once again thank Leslie so much for being our past president and still nurturing everything that we're doing in the future. And thank you once again. And if you have anyone that would like to join, please have them join, because I mean, this is such beautiful fellowship that we can do straight from our own home, and especially in this cold weather. And good night, and have an amazing rest of your week. And Goldie, you are amazing.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. All of you are too. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay.
And before we sign off, I just wanted to let everybody know our next meeting on Zoom is going to be March 8th with a person who I know very well, Deborah Zuhl, who has been doing reenactments of Sojourner Truth in the community for over 20 years. She started as a Stonehouse person in, where is it? Hurley? And she's traveled around with her show to Kingston, even the Norman Rockwell Museum. And she absolutely embodies Sojourner Truth's Ain't I a Woman speech.
Wow.
She's created a wonderful small theater piece that I've enjoyed watching over and over, different years, where she creates this idea that she's being interviewed by David Letterman, and she's astonished to hear that there's a stamp named after her and a Mars rover probe that's been named after her, and it's kind of like time travel. So it's a beautiful show, and she does the Seneca Falls idea. She was involved with that. She was invited by Elizabeth Stanton Caddy and the crew, and there was a convergence between the abolitionists who wanted everybody to vote, and then the women's suffrage movement that wanted women to vote. And unfortunately, what happened was Abe Lincoln gave the vote to Black soldiers and Black men because the Union won, and she was very involved with getting Black men to join the Union Army and succeed in liberation. So she went on to continue to work for the women's vote, but she was also involved with helping men get jobs and reposition and try to get land. But she used the court system phenomenally well. She was kind of like the first Rosa Parks. She got her son back from slavery. She cleared her name. So she's a big inspiration for a lot of people. So let's make sure we get tuned into that. Hi, Danielle. Good to see you. So, excellent. Thank you.
I had to join late. I was in another meeting until 7, but I'm glad to have caught, part of Goldie's presentation anyway.
Oh, thank you.
And this is recorded, so we'll figure out how to get it up on the website, and you can see the beginning part.
Great.
As well.
Yeah, it's nice to see everybody. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Leslie. Thank you. Thank you, Goldie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie, for wonderful moderation.
Yes.
Great MC. Thank you. Yay.